gallery. All right, welcome everybody to session 13, the first April session of the Eugene Review Panel on Housing. So nice to have you here. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about where we are, where we've come from, and where we're going. And then Terry from the city of Eugene has a couple of words, then we'll move straight into a jam-packed program of tons of information and fun. So Alex, next slide, please. So this is sort of where we are as of this spring. In February, you reviewed the code frameworks and those sort of questions in the form of that survey and made recommendations from that, which went to the Planning Commission. And then you also made some general public engagement recommendations, which also went to the Planning Commission. Now in April, you're reviewing draft code in the form of, you've already received it by mail in the form of some general sort of philosophical, I suppose, recommendations, answers to a few basic questions about sort of the thinking behind the code writing. And then a whole bunch of pages after that that detail specific code recommendations in those three categories that the city's been using: allow, encourage, incentivize, related to different housing types. Now, I want to mention that some of you today will have received an email from me and then an additional envelope, perhaps in your mailbox or perhaps under your front screen door or fronts on your front stoop that has an additional piece of paper. If you didn't receive that, don't worry, it probably means you're not in that group. We've split the panel in half, and that's because there's so much information here that really it's only consumable by, in halves. So I'm sorry in advance if you're not with the half that you would like to be with, but half of you have been randomly placed into a group to look at the code recommendations related to duplexes and cottage clusters, and half of you have been placed into a group to look at triplexes, fourplexes, and row houses. Those recommendations just came out yesterday, so that's why we hand delivered them to you. But everybody has the duplex and cottage cluster recommendations, and at the beginning of that document, you will have seen there are these sort of general overarching ideas, and also we included in there a copy of your principles for reference when you start to evaluate these things later on. So basically, we're going to have a first half that's very information heavy, lots of Q&A, different kinds of groups to do that in, and then the second half that we're going to jump into deliberation on these different sort of topics. So I want to turn it over to Terry really fast to say a couple words about an opportunity with the city that we're also going to send you an email about. Terry?
Great, thank you, Lynn. So this is about the equity panel, yes? Okay, great. The city has done something over the past few years that is new, and we brought together an equity panel of folks representing different organizations around the community to advise over the process of our climate action plan. So that happened a couple of years ago, and it was an intentional focus on social equity, to have a panel of folks representing organizations, including BIPOC or Black, Indigenous, people of color organizations, renter advocacy organizations, disability rights organizations, LGBTQ plus organizations, et cetera. Were invited and will be invited again to participate on this ongoing panel. So this is being relaunched, and applications just went out at the beginning of April. And so we would love to share this opportunity with you, and Alex and Lynn are going to be sending you how to do that and how to learn more. One little note, it is structured to represent organizations, not individuals. So that's a little bit different than how this panel was put together, but still an outstanding opportunity. And I'm sure a lot of you are involved in some of the organizations that have seats at the table. So that's what I wanted to share.
Thanks, Terry. And it's actually Kelly that's going to be sending that to you along with something else after this session or between these next two sessions. So with that, look out for your in your email for that. And let's jump right in to, as we usually do, to base camps, to just say hi to each other and also to have a little bit of silent reading time of the first questions of these materials. And actually, before we go, let me just mention that those questions on the mailing that you were sent on that memo, excuse me, only pay attention to questions 1, 2, 3, and 4 for right now. Ignore questions 5 and 6. So questions 1, 2, 3, 4, and the recommendations that go with them, that'll be your first things to look at when given some silent reading time here. And don't worry, you'll have more reading time